Evan Parker had always believed he understood silence. He worked in software, he liked quiet mornings, and he found peace in the soft hum of Seattle rain tapping against the window. But lately, the silence inside his home felt different, heavier. Colder, as if it lived between him and Lena like a wall neither of them could break. They still ate dinner together, still shared the same bed, still watched the same shows on weekends, but something important had slowly faded without either of them noticing. It wasn't anger or resentment. It was simply distance, and that distance grew a little more every day. Like a crack spreading across glass, Evan loved Lena deeply, even when he didn't know how to express it. She was the girl he married at 27, the woman who colored his life with laughter, who once left sticky notes on his laptop saying, "Don't forget lunch." But life had a way of tiring people out. Work stress, long days, a slow pile of small disagreements. They all built up until neither of them knew how to return to the warmth they once had. On a rainy Thursday evening, as the wind pushed water against the window and the sky turned gray, the doorbell rang. Evan, half expecting a package, walked to the door without a thought. But when he opened it, he froze. It was Claire, Lena's childhood friend. The woman they used to see every summer when she visited from Toronto. She had always been bright, easygoing, and warm, someone who could start a conversation with anyone. But tonight she looked exhausted. Her dark hair clung to her cheeks from the rain, her suitcase was soaked, and her eyes were tired in a way that made Evan feel concerned before she even said a word. "Evan," she said, almost breathless. "I'm so sorry to show up like this. My flight got delayed 3 times, the weather's been terrible, and the Airbnb I booked canceled last minute. I tried calling Lena, but her phone kept going to voicemail. I didn't know where else to go, and your address was the only one I remembered." Before Evan could speak, Lena appeared behind him. "Claire, what happened? Why didn't you text?" "I did," Claire said with a weak laugh, lifting her phone. "My battery died halfway here. I tried to find a hotel, but everything nearby is full. I'm really sorry if this is inconvenient. I can try somewhere else." Evan didn't hesitate. "No, come in. It's dangerous to be out in this weather." Claire stepped inside, grateful but embarrassed. Lena hugged her tightly, and the warmth of that moment made something ache inside Evan. He hadn't seen Lena hug anyone like that in months, not even him. They led Claire to the living room. Evan handed her a towel. Lena brought her dry clothes. And soon Claire was wrapped in one of Lena's oversized sweaters with a soft blanket around her shoulders. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice small. "You have no idea how much I needed a safe place tonight." Evan made tea for the 3 of them, something he hadn't done in a long time. They sat together, the room warm and cozy, the rain hitting the windows in steady sheets. Claire told them about her trip, how she had planned to visit Seattle for a conference, how one delay had turned into 2, then 3, until she had found herself stranded and desperate. Evan listened closely. He found himself studying her face, not with attraction but curiosity. Claire had always had a calmness to her, the kind that made others feel relaxed. And he noticed how Lena seemed more alive talking to her, leaning forward, smiling, interrupting with stories from their teenage years. It was strange. Evan couldn't remember the last time Lena's voice carried that much light. As the conversation continued, the house felt different, as if someone had opened a window after months of stale air. Claire told stories about traveling for work, getting lost in airports, accidentally booking the wrong train, simple things, but she told them with humor. Even Evan found himself laughing softly at her dramatic reenactment of running through Toronto's Union Station with a broken suitcase wheel. Lena's laughter was the part that stayed with him the most. It wasn't polite or forced. It was real, warm, and familiar. It's almost like hearing music he thought he had forgotten. For a moment, he simply watched the 2 women talk, realizing he missed seeing Lena this open and comfortable. He had forgotten how expressive her eyes used to be, how her smile could brighten an entire room. And now Claire unintentionally had brought that version of Lena back into the house. Later, when the clock neared midnight, Claire's voice softened. I don't want to be a bother. I'll find a place tomorrow morning, I promise. You're not a bother, Lena said immediately. You're staying with us tonight. No arguments. Evan nodded. You're soaked and exhausted. Rest first. Claire hesitated, her gaze moving between them, but she finally agreed. Evan showed her the guest room, small but warm. Claire looked relieved when she saw the clean sheets and soft pillow. This is perfect, she said, smiling gently. Thank you both, truly. When she closed the door behind her, the house fell into a quieter kind of stillness. Not heavy, not cold, just quiet. Evan walked back to the kitchen to put away the mugs. Lena followed him, stopping near the counter. For a moment, she seemed like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the right words. You were quick to help her. Lena finally whispered. She needed us, he replied. Lena looked at him, studying him as if seeing him differently. I almost forgot how kind you are. It's nice. Evan didn't know how to respond. They stood there in the kitchen, surrounded by warm yellow light, the storm still rumbling outside. The silence between them was softer now, not sharp like before. Lena stepped closer but didn't fully close the distance. Tonight felt different. I don't know why. Evan swallowed, unsure how to interpret her tone. Different how? She looked down at her hands. I don't know. Just warmer. Like things used to be. Like we're not so far apart. He wanted to say he felt it too. But he didn't want to ruin the moment by putting pressure on her. So he simply nodded. And she gave him a small smile, the kind he hadn't seen for a long time. I'm going to bed, she whispered. Good night. Good night, he said softly, when she disappeared down the hallway. Evan stood alone for a moment, staring at the quiet room around him. Something inside him felt unsettled. But not in a painful way, more like a door opening to a hallway. He hadn't explored in years. He turned off the lights and walked toward the bedroom. As he passed the guest room, he paused. Claire's soft breathing came from inside, calm and gentle. So different from the storm outside. He didn't know why. But her presence felt important, like she had stepped into their lives at exactly the moment they needed someone to remind them of who they once were. He finally went to bed, but sleep didn't come easily. His mind kept replaying the way Lena had smiled tonight. The warmth in her voice when she said things felt different. It wasn't Claire he was thinking about. It was Lena. It was the possibility that maybe, just maybe, their marriage wasn't as broken as he feared. But beneath that fragile hope was something. Else something he didn't fully understand yet. Claire's arrival had shifted the energy in the house in a way he couldn't explain. Not romantic. Not dangerous, just quietly powerful. When the rain finally softened outside and the house settled into a gentle calm, Evan realized the truth. Tonight had changed something. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But unmistakably. And in that quiet shift, he felt the first spark of something he hadn't felt in a long time. A sense that life was about to become more complicated, more emotional, and more connected than he ever expected. He had invited Claire to stay for one night. He didn't know it yet, but that single act of kindness would open doors none of them were ready for. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the half-open blinds, casting a soft glow across the kitchen. The rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and cool, carrying the faint smell of wet earth. Claire was already awake, sitting at the counter in one of Lena's oversized sweaters, sipping coffee. She looked calm, almost serene, as if the chaos of the previous night had passed entirely. Leaving only warmth behind, Evan quietly entered the kitchen. Careful not to disturb her, but she noticed him instantly. "Morning," she said softly, her voice light and unhurried. It was a small greeting, but it carried a weight of comfort, as if being here had given her relief she hadn't realized she needed. "Morning," Evan replied, moving to make himself a cup of tea. There was a strange mixture of feelings stirring in him: relief that she was safe, curiosity about how she seemed so at ease, and a faint awareness of the bond forming in ways he hadn't anticipated. Lena appeared behind him a moment later. her hair slightly tousled, a simple gray sweater over pajamas. She smiled, that same warm, real smile he had seen the night before, and it caught him off guard. For a long time, he hadn't remembered what it felt like to see her genuinely happy. And now he realized how much he had missed it. Claire set down her cup and looked at Lena. "Thanks for letting me stay," she said. "It's more than I expected. You two really are kind." Lena shook her head gently. "You're welcome. Honestly, it feels like it's been forever since we laughed together like this. I forgot how good it feels." Her eyes softened as she looked at Evan, and for the first time in weeks, he felt a flicker of something he thought had disappeared between them: connection. The three of them ate breakfast together, moving easily around the small kitchen. Pancakes, eggs, and coffee, simple things, but shared in such a way that the house felt alive again. Claire told them about her conference plans, the things she wanted to see in Seattle, the little mishaps that had delayed her arrival. She spoke with humor and a kind of understated charm that made both Evan and Lena lean in, laugh, and respond naturally. It was effortless, and it reminded Evan of evenings long past when he and Lena had stayed up late, talking and joking as if the world outside didn't exist. After breakfast, the conversation drifted to old memories. Claire brought up summers they had all spent together in Toronto, trips to local parks, and nights by the lake where Lena had always found a way to make everyone laugh. Evan found himself smiling more freely than he had in months, occasionally adding details he remembered but had long tucked away. The three of them laughed at moments, shared quiet reflections at others, and in all of it, Evan noticed something tender forming, a sense of comfort and belonging that he had almost forgotten existed by late morning. Sunlight streamed more strongly through the windows. Claire wandered over to the living room and picked up a book from the shelf, settling into the armchair. Evan and Lena remained in the kitchen, putting away dishes. The atmosphere was gentle, the kind that made time feel like it was stretching in a warm, inviting way. Evan noticed how natural it felt to be around Claire. And yet it wasn't about attraction. It was about trust, ease, and the quiet reminder that people could bring light into places that had been dark for too long. Lena, noticing Evan's gaze, brushed past him and leaned against the counter with a small, thoughtful smile. "I didn't realize how much I needed this," she murmured. He paused, unsure whether to respond. The words felt heavy with unspoken meaning. "Needed what?" he asked gently. This connection," she said, gesturing to the living room where Claire sat reading. "It's been missing here for so long. And somehow, her being here, even for one night, has reminded me." Evan nodded slowly. He understood. It wasn't Claire who had changed things, at least, not in a way anyone could label. It was her presence, her energy, that had brought them back to themselves, back to each other. The day passed with a quiet rhythm. They cleaned up, did laundry, and shared lunch. Claire suggested a walk outside since the rain had stopped, and Evan and Lena agreed. As they stepped out into the fresh air, the streets glistening from the storm, Evan noticed the simple beauty of the world, the way puddles reflected the sky, the smell of wet pavement, the distant laughter of children playing outside. The walk was lighthearted. Claire pointed out small details in the city, places she remembered from past visits, and the three of them reminisced and explored. Evan found himself noticing little things about Lena, again the way she tilted her head when she laughed, the way her hand brushed against his occasionally, almost absent-mindedly. Each small gesture made his chest tighten with a mixture of emotion and longing by the time they returned home. The sun was low, casting golden light into the living room. Claire went to the guest room, saying she needed a short rest before dinner. Evan and Lena remained in the living room, a quiet tension between them that was not uncomfortable but full of unsaid words. "Evan," Lena started, hesitating. "Do you feel it too?" He looked at her, puzzled but attentive. "Feel what?" "This. Change. Something shifted last night. Something feels lighter, more hopeful." "Do you feel it?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, I do. It's hard to describe, but it's like a door we didn't know was closed has been opened again. A little." She smiled, the kind of smile that reached her eyes and made him remember why he had fallen in love with her. Exactly. That's it. They sat in silence for a few moments, letting the feelings settle between them. It wasn't a dramatic declaration of love, nor an instant fix for months of distance, but it was a start. The start of remembering each other, of rediscovering warmth, trust, and intimacy. Not necessarily physical, but emotional. Clear emerged from the guest room just as the golden light faded into evening. She stretched and smiled at them. "I think I'll join you for dinner," she said. "I promise not to take over the kitchen." Lena laughed softly. "You're more than welcome. Honestly, it feels strange to have the house feel so full again." Dinner was simple: pasta, salad, and fresh bread. They ate together at the table, sharing conversation, laughter, and stories. Each of them contributed naturally, the balance of three people feeling surprisingly harmonious. Evan realized that he hadn't shared a meal this connected with anyone in months, not even Lena alone. Claire's presence had not complicated things. It had enhanced them, brought them closer. After dinner, they moved to the living room. The light was dim, the atmosphere quiet and warm. Evan noticed Lena leaning into him slightly, a gentle reassurance of closeness. Claire, sitting in the armchair, looked at them and smiled softly, as if understanding without words that her role here wasn't permanent but meaningful. "Tomorrow," Claire said, "I'll figure out my next steps. But I have to say, staying here has reminded me of what friendship and connection really mean. You too. You've created something really special." Lena's eyes softened. "You've reminded us, too. You didn't even realize it, but you brought something back we didn't know we were missing." Evan felt the weight of the truth settle around them. It wasn't Claire who had fixed anything. It was her presence that allowed space for healing, for reconnection, for the rediscovery of warmth and emotion. The evening passed slowly, filled with quiet conversation and shared memories. As Claire excused herself to the guest room for the night, Lena and Evan remained sitting together on the couch. For the first time in months, there was no tension, no heavy silence. There was simply closeness, a quiet understanding that they could still be partners, still be friends, still be connected in ways that mattered. Lena leaned her head against Evan's shoulder, a subtle, comforting gesture that made his chest tighten with emotion. "I didn't expect this," she whispered. "Neither did I," he said. "But it feels right?" She smiled just slightly, letting him feel the warmth of her presence. The house was quiet, the storm a memory. Spy and the future felt wide open in ways they hadn't imagined. Claire's arrival had been unplanned. One night of shelter from a storm had turned into something deeper, more emotional and undeniably transformative. They were three people connected by kindness, laughter, and shared history, standing on the edge of a new chapter, one that promised warmth, trust, and understanding that had been missing for far too long. And as they sat together, watching the last glow of evening fade into night, Evan realized that life didn't always follow plans. Sometimes the most meaningful changes came from unexpected guests, from acts of kindness, and from moments of vulnerability. Claire had joined them, yes, but in doing so, she had reminded Evan and Lena of each other, of themselves, and of the quiet, steady power of connection. It was a night of reflection, of quiet smiles and lingering warmth. A night that promised that the next day, tomorrow, would not be ordinary. It would be full of possibility, full of subtle emotion, and full of gentle, unexpected closeness. For the first time in months, Evan felt hope. Lena felt hope. And Claire. Perhaps she felt hope too. No one spoke of what tomorrow would bring. They didn't need to. The unspoken truth was enough. The house, once quiet and distant, now held warmth, laughter, and the beginnings of something fragile, tender, and beautiful. And in that quiet moment, with rain forgotten and hearts cautiously open, they all knew that life had changed, softly, gently, irrevocably.